welcome to this session. Today, we're diving into something really profound about directing, something that honestly often gets overlooked, but is key to truly powerful storytelling. We're going to talk about orchestrating every creative element, the whole production really, to serve the actor's deepest psychological journey. Because it's not just about guiding a performance, is it? It's about crafting this entire cinematic world that just vibrates with the character's inner life. We often think, okay, directing is guiding actors. Yeah, that's fundamental, absolutely. But true mastery, it really goes way beyond just the actor. It's about conducting an entire world, every visual, every sound cue, how things are arranged on set, even tiny things like a shift in light or the exact rhythm of a cut, and making sure each of those things either helps the character in their relentless pursuit or, challenges them fiercely. There's really no neutral ground when you're chasing truth like that. Every department is essentially a psychological storyteller. When you really get that, it changes everything, your whole approach. It's a big vision, though, which raises a question for me.
Is there a danger of being maybe too prescriptive? Telling the cinematographer or the designer exactly what every choice means psychologically. Could that stifle their own art, their intuition? How do you find that balance?
Precisely. And that question, it really gets to the heart of the challenge, but the answer is no, not if you approach it correctly. As directors, your mandate, your core job is to become an emotional conductor. You're tuning every instrument in your production, the camera, the set, the edit, to the precise melody of the character's underlying need. They're objective. This isn't about creating something that just looks cool or, is aesthetically pleasing on the surface. And it's definitely not about stifling creativity. It is about demanding truth. You're not just managing logistics. You're translating the actor's complex psychological map for everyone on your creative team. You're inviting them into a deeper, a more intentional kind of collaboration. You're inviting every team member to join what we call the emotional war. Now, this idea, it's fundamental in the Chubbuck technique. It means recognizing that your character is always fighting relentlessly for something absolutely crucial, their objective. So, for instance, if your character uses their pain as a tactic to seduce someone, well, then the set, the lighting, the camera work, it all has to echo that specific seduction, that specific strategy. Or if they're fighting desperately just to be seen, to be acknowledged, then the environment itself must vividly reflect the huge cost of their invisibility, the immense challenge they face in breaking through that. This really is the essence of directing with psychological precision. Every creative tool you have becomes either a potent weapon in the character's arsenal, helping them get that objective, or it becomes a formidable obstacle, something standing right in their path that they have to fight against or overcome. So this session, we're going to explore exactly how to achieve that total alignment with your key collaborators, making sure every single element vibrates with the same hunger, the same need that the actor is channeling, and ensuring that their artistic intuition isn't stifled, but actually directed toward this shared, this profound goal.
Okay, let's unpack that. Transforming every piece of filmmaking into an active participant. That's a big idea. Let's start with the camera. How do we as directors actually guide the director of photography, the DOP, to make that leap? To turn the camera from just, a recording device into a real co-conspirator in the character's emotional war. It feels like a big jump from the technical side.
It is a crucial leap, a fundamental one, and it's where your directorial vision really starts to take shape, to blossom. Your DOP has to grasp the character's precise objective in every single scene. And when we talk about the objective in this technique, we mean their deepest, most urgent need in that moment, what they absolutely must achieve to survive or thrive emotionally. It's what drives every single action, spoken or not.
So not just they want to leave the room, but why they need to leave, what they're fighting for or against by leaving.
Exactly. We're not talking about just the physical blocking, the practical moves. It's the raw emotional need propelling everything they do. The lens, for us, it becomes a direct portal into the character's soul, not just a window looking in. Think about this. A wide shot of a character pacing back and forth. It's not just coverage, right? It's not just showing movement. It's a profound visual statement. It could be about loneliness, deep isolation, or maybe self-sabotage. They're trapping themselves, or maybe even a tiny, fragile flicker of hope for what's next. Let's take a character, say, Eleanor. She desperately needs to regain control of her life after some past betrayal has shattered her trust. That's her driving need in many scenes. Now, if Eleanor is pacing in this huge empty room, a wide shot could really hammer home her isolation, the sheer scale of the obstacle she feels she's up against.
Okay, I see that. The space emphasizes the feeling.
Right. But now, what if she's pacing in a really cramped, cluttered space? That same wide shot, maybe using a wider lens that distorts things a bit, suddenly the walls might feel like they're closing in. It physically manifests her internal claustrophobia, that feeling of being totally trapped by her past. So you, the director, you have to empower your DOP to understand this internal storm, to see the shot not just for its composition, but for its emotional architecture. By clearly articulating the objective, what Eleanor wants, and the obstacle she faces, what's stopping her, you enable your DOP to frame with tension, or with movement that feels desperate, or with that claustrophobia we talked about, or maybe even with a sense of release if she has a breakthrough. That makes the camera an active, silent participant in this high-stakes emotional chess game.
That's incredibly compelling, the camera actively participating. But it makes me wonder about the practicalities on set. Time is always tight. If every single shot needs this level of awareness of the objective, the inner monologue, maybe even the actor's substitution, how do you manage that intense flow of information without just, overwhelming your DOP?
Right.
Or even yourself?
That's a vital question. And it's about clear, focused communication, not overwhelming detail. The way a scene is lit, blocked, captured, it is never an afterthought. It is emotional architecture. Think about a slow push-in. It's not just a dolly move, technically speaking. It can mirror a deepening obsession, right? Pulling the audience right into the character's psychological trap. If Eleanor is slowly realizing some difficult truth about her family, maybe something she didn't want to see, a subtle, deliberate push-in can make that internal discovery feel palpable, unavoidable for the audience.
So the movement itself tells part of the inner story.
Exactly. Or consider a sudden handheld jolt. That's not just a stylistic choice someone makes because it looks gritty. It can echo a psychological rupture, a moment of profound internal destabilization. Maybe it's the moment Eleanor suddenly realizes her relative is completely beyond redemption and her world shifts. Or think about a long, static take. Depending on the context, on the character's inner monologue, those unspoken thoughts and feelings driving them beneath the surface, that long take could create unbearable intimacy, forcing us to confront raw emotion. Or it could create profound alienation, emphasizing just how isolated a character feels.
So the inner monologue dictates how we interpret even the lack of movement.
Precisely. When your DOP truly understands this inner monologue, their collaboration shifts. It transcends just technical habit, just doing what they always do, and becomes profound, conscious intention. Light can haunt. It can cast shadows that speak volumes about a character's past regrets, their hidden fears. Composition can accuse. You can frame a character in a way that emphasizes their guilt or their perceived failures, boxing them in. Shadows can seduce, drawing us into a character's manipulative charm or hinting at their hidden desires. The lens doesn't just observe the performance, it actively helps perform the story. It ensures the audience feels the character's journey deep down in their nervous system, in their gut, not just seeing it play out visually. Your role then is to empower your DOP to be an emotional translator. You need to give them the same emotional fuel the actor is channeling. That includes the actor's substitution. Remember, substitution is that deeply personal, emotional connection the actor finds from their own life to fuel the character's objective. You extend this concept.
So the DOP needs that same level of emotional understanding.
They need access to that core emotional truth, yes. Challenge them. Ask them to light a heartbreak as something almost sacred, treating that vulnerability with visual reverence. Ask them to shoot a breakdown not just as someone crying, but as a final, desperate battle for psychological survival. Film is war in this sense. The camera is both a weapon and a witness. Walk them through the character's inner monologue during those critical moments. Ask them directly, how would you like this? How would you frame this if you were fighting for this objective right now? What do you want the audience to feel in their gut, not just see with their eyes? Use emotional substitution as a way to drive the camera logic. Push beyond just the logistical needs, we need a close-up here, into the character's internal storm. Encourage them to imagine the lens as an emotional extension of the character's fierce will to win.
Okay, so asking them to connect personally in a way.
Yes. What does betrayal actually look like in a frame? Maybe it's a sharp, almost fractured composition, or perhaps a single, harsh light source hitting only one side of the face, leaving the other hidden, duplicitous. How does hope shape light? Maybe it's a slow, gradual warming of the ambient light, or a key light that subtly, gently envelops the character. How can a specific camera move a tilt, a rack focus, even a lens flare reveal desperation or danger instead of just being a cool effect? A rapid tilt down to Eleanor's trembling hands as she tries to maintain composure could instantly reveal her inner desperation. You have to work moment by moment. Ensure the camera is responding to every subtle shift in tactic, from seduction to shame, from gaining control to losing it. If Eleanor subtly shifts her tactic mid-scene, maybe from trying charm to employing a veiled threat, how does the camera's movement or focus, or even the depth of field echo that shift?
Does it hold tight on her face to catch the micro-expression, or quickly cut to the other person's reaction to show the impact?
Exactly those kinds of questions. Forge a shared emotional palette with your DOP so the camera doesn't just observe passively, it actively conspires with the character. Empower your DOP to chase authentic behavior, not just clean shots, to flame the tactics the character is using, to shoot for the psychological stakes, not just the surface action. You must transform your scenes into visual battlegrounds of need, where every single choice made with the camera either sharpens or sabotages the character's relentless fight.
Okay, so the camera becomes this active weapon, this co-conspirator. But the character doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? They inhabit a world. How does that physical world, the set, the props, the whole environment become a profound extension of their internal state? How do you guide the production designer to build what you called an emotional battlefield, making the sets themselves speak?
That's the next crucial layer. Because great design, you see, it's never merely decorative. It's never just about making things look nice or period accurate. It is always strategic. It's fundamentally a psychological portrait, but painted in walls, furniture, textures, colors, and light. Think about a cluttered apartment. It's not just messy, is it? It can be a visual scream of a mind in chaos, a manifestation of a character who's completely overwhelmed, losing control. Perhaps that character even uses the external mess as an unconscious tactic to mirror their internal state, maybe to keep people away, to create a barrier.
Or the opposite extreme neatness.
Precisely. A pristine, almost sterile hallway isn't just clean. It can become the suffocating gauntlet for a character who's yearning for freedom, for escape. The very perfection of the space can feel oppressive, like a psychological obstacle they've perhaps even built for themselves. Imagine Eleanor's relative, the one who betrayed her. Let's say they're meticulously organized. They live in a space so perfect it feels cold, devoid of warmth. Every object placed with clinical precision.
It feels untouchable.
Exactly. And that's not just an aesthetic choice. It's a direct manifestation of their objective to maintain absolute control, maybe over their emotions, over their image. It's a barrier against vulnerability, against the messiness of real connection. The character's world is an undeniable extension of their core need, their shame, their hunger for change, their deepest fears. The set absolutely must echo the actor's substitution, their personal connection, and the inner objects driving the character. Those internal symbols, those personal connections that fuel their actions and choices, nothing on that set should be neutral. Everything has to mean something emotionally. Every detail, the texture of a sofa, is it worn and comforting or stiff and formal? The type of glassware they use, delicate or heavy? The wear and tear on a wall, does it suggest history or neglect? Each detail is an emotional breadcrumb, guiding the audience deeper into the character's soul, hinting at their past, their current state, their hidden aspirations or despairs. If your character is desperately seeking to prove their worth, the space needs to visibly reflect the immense challenges they face. Or maybe it reflects the false facade they're desperately trying to maintain.
Like a struggling character living in a place that looks way too expensive for them.
Exactly. Or maybe it's a stark, minimalist office that communicates their relentless ambition, but also hints at the huge personal sacrifices they've made along the way, the emptiness behind the success. If they're hiding a profound truth, the space itself should feel like a mask concealing their authentic self. Or perhaps it feels like a trap, literally or figuratively confining their secret. What if Eleanor's relative lives in this grand, imposing house, filled with expensive, heavy, antique furniture? This house isn't just a dwelling place. It becomes an inner object itself, a powerful symbol of the family's legacy, their rigid expectations, maybe the very source of Eleanor's past betrayal. The sheer weight of this legacy, visually represented by the house and its contents, becomes a palpable obstacle for Eleanor every time she enters it.
Wow, so the set designer becomes this emotional architect. They're constructing an environment that tells a story just as much as the dialogue or the performance. That's a really profound shift in perspective for a department that's sometimes seen as, just making things look good. How do you ensure the designer isn't just focusing on the big picture, the grand gestures, but also those subtle, maybe even subconscious details that really deepen the psychological portrait, the things the audience might not consciously register, but still feel?
Indeed. Design is that psychological portrait. And yes, the subtlety matters immensely. If the character feels invisible, insignificant, maybe the space physically dwarfs them. Think high ceilings, towering furniture, vast empty corridors that emphasize how small and overlooked they feel. Their objective might be to be seen, and the space itself is the obstacle. If they crave control, like Eleanor's relative, their environment might be obsessively neat, sterile, almost hyper-ordered, a physical manifestation of their objective to dominate their world, to bring order to what might be internal chaos.
Like their study being perfectly arranged, almost untouchable.
Exactly. Every book perfectly aligned, every pen precisely placed. This meticulous order isn't just tidiness, it's a defense mechanism, a tactic to suppress internal chaos or vulnerability. Now, what if a character is internally unraveling, falling apart, but desperately trying to maintain a facade of normalcy? The design needs to expose that contradiction. Maybe a flawlessly ordered room, superficially perfect, but then you notice a subtle detail, a cracked mirror hidden in a corner, a small, persistent stain on an otherwise pristine carpet, something that reveals the decay lurking beneath the polished surface.
Like in the relative's house, maybe a perfect white living room, but there's a tiny, barely noticeable water stain creeping down one wall, hinting at secrets, emotional rot.
Precisely. Those details are crucial. Every visible element in their environment must hint at what remains hidden deep within their psyche. It creates this constant underlying tension between appearance and reality. And production design can also set powerful emotional traps. If a character is desperately trying to flee their past, you strategically include objects that serve as constant haunting reminders that escape is impossible. Old photographs they can't bring themselves to throw away. Inherited furniture they despise but keep. Symbols of previous failures or traumas.
For Eleanor, maybe that prominently displayed, perfectly framed family portrait in her relative's study, a constant visual reminder of the betrayal she can't escape, staring down at her.
Exactly. Or if a character yearns for love, for connection, let the room itself reflect that painful absence. Or echoing spaces that emphasize silence. Or maybe a desolate arrangement of furniture that feels like it should be shared but isn't. If someone is striving to rise above their station, their environment can reflect both their aspiration and the inherent fragility of their position, the precariousness of their climb. Maybe a grand house that's clearly falling into disrepair, showing the strain of maintaining the image. Your designer isn't merely a decorator. They are constructing the very battlefield where the character's soul fights for survival, for its objective. So you challenge them to think like a dramatist, like a psychologist, to make the set breathe with history, with longing, with fear, with obsession. Ask them provocative questions. What does guilt smell like in this room? Is it musty? Is it overlaid with too much air freshener? What color is denial in this space? Is it a harsh, blinding white that refuses to acknowledge shadow? Is it a sickly, sweet pastel? Let the answers to those kinds of questions shape the world your character inhabit. Make the intangible tangible.
That requires sharing a lot of the character's inner life with the designer.
Absolutely. Share the character's full backstory, their emotional biography. Go beyond just the plot points. Delve into their soul. What deep wounds do they carry? What secret hopes? What desperate victories are they relentlessly chasing? Invite your designer to craft powerful visual metaphors for what the character is fighting for: dignity, connection, redemption, control, whatever it is. Ask them, if this space had to whisper the character's biggest secret to the audience, what would it say? Let them really consider if the environment is a self-made prison of status and image, or maybe a chaotic shrine to unresolved grief. Push them to layer textures with profound psychological purpose. A torn curtain isn't just damaged fabric. It might symbolize acute vulnerability, a rip in the character's defenses. A locked drawer isn't just storage. It could be a potent visual stand-in for suppressed trauma, a secret chamber in their mind they refuse to open. Anchor color palettes and tactile choices, rough textures versus smooth, warm versus cold, to specific moments of change in the story. So even the subtle shade of the walls can shift to reflect a pivotal change in power dynamics or intimacy or rising danger. The ultimate goal is to make the environment a living, breathing extension of the character's psychological arc, transforming it from just a setting into a direct, visceral manifestation of their inner war.
Okay, so we've sculpted the environment, this emotional battlefield. We've framed the soul using the camera as an active participant. Now we get to post-production, to the edit. How do we guide the editor? How do we ensure that every single cut, every pause, every moment of silence serves the character's psychological truth? That the edit itself actively participates in that emotional war.
This is absolutely crucial because editing is far more than just matching shots or creating a smooth flow. It is the critical act of deciding precisely which behavior, which moment, which flicker in the eyes best conveys the psychological truth of that instant. Your editors must understand not just the plot points, but the profound psychological stakes of the narrative. What does the character truly stand to gain or lose at their deepest emotional level if they fail to achieve their objective in this scene?
So for Eleanor confronting her relative, the editor needs to feel those stakes, her dignity, her sense of self, the possibility of closure hanging in the balance.
Exactly. They need to feel that weight because the rhythm of the cut itself becomes a storytelling tool. A frantic series of quick cuts can reveal desperation, internal panic. Deliberate, lingering shots can show dominance, control, or maybe unbearable tension. Jumping away from a crucial moment, cutting right before a revelation, can highlight avoidance, a character's inability to face something. While holding on a powerful reaction, a breakthrough, can give it immense impact. If an actor uses, say, their pain as a specific tactic to manipulate someone, the editor must honor that choice. They need to select the take, the specific moment within the take that best serves the character's objective through that tactic.
So the editor is choosing based on the tactic being employed.
Yes. Editing is a form of power. It determines what the audience is allowed to see, what they're allowed to feel, and precisely when they feel it. Your editor shouldn't be cutting just for continuity, for making sure the eye lines match perfectly, although that matters. They should be cutting primarily for the emotional tactics the actor is employing to win their objective. For instance, if Eleanor tries a charm tactic on a relative, trying to disarm them, a skilled editor might let that moment breathe. Let us see the full play of her attempted manipulation, maybe even sense the calculation behind it.
Letting the audience judge the tactic, maybe.
Perhaps. But then, if she abruptly shifts to a more threatening tactic, maybe the cut needs to be sharp, immediate, mirroring her sudden change in strategy, creating a jolt for the audience.
That really changes the editor's role. They're not just assembling pieces, they're actively interpreting the performance and shaping the audience's emotional journey. Almost like a co-writer of the emotional narrative in the end. But how do you avoid the edit feeling, disjointed or jarring if you're constantly prioritizing that psychological truth over maybe smoother, more conventional continuity?
That's a great point. It's about finding the right rhythm, not necessarily the smoothest one. A truly skilled editor understands that performance is war, in the sense that the character is fighting for something vital. And the cut, the edit suite, is the battlefield where each tactic is either laid bare for the audience to see or perhaps cunningly concealed, depending on the character's strategy. A good editor relentlessly hunts for strategy in the footage. Did the actor pivot? From charm to threat. From denial to a heartbreaking moment of surrender. From manipulation to a sudden, raw, vulnerable confession. These are the seismic shifts, the turning points that drive a scene's emotional charge. And editing with that awareness sculpts the psychological journey with surgical precision. And sometimes, the most potent take isn't the most technically perfect or polished one.
Right, the one where maybe his actor flubbed a line slightly, but the emotion was incredible.
Exactly. Or the one where the character almost breaks, where the mask slips for just a fraction of a second, where the true cost of their tactic, the toll it's taking on them, is laid bare in their eyes. Your editor needs the acumen, the sensitivity to spot these cracks in the armor, these micro expressions of pain behind a forced smile, the brief hesitation before a lie. And they need the courage to lean into them, not cut away from them. The goal is never surface perfection. It is always, unflinchingly, emotional impact. The raw truth of the moment, however messy it might be, rhythm, pacing, even the use of silence. These become incredibly powerful weapons of storytelling when they're wielded in service of the objective. Ensure your editor is chasing authentic behavior, not just getting the necessary coverage. Let the cut breathe deeply where the character needs to ache. Allow that emotional space to resonate, to land with the audience, to sink in. Conversely, tighten the cut. Make it swift, decisive, almost breathless in those moments where the character is desperate to seize control or regain it, amplifying their urgency.
So for Eleanor's confrontation, maybe holding a lingering shot on her face after a particular wounding remark from her relative, letting us really feel her internal processing.
Precisely. Allowing the audience to sit in that discomfort, that pain with her. Then perhaps a rapid-fire sequence of cuts as she verbally retaliates, showing her fighting back, regaining a tactile advantage, turning the tables. This isn't about achieving a clean edit in the conventional sense. It's about achieving an edit that feels undeniably true to the character's inner experience. Now, practically, in post-production, your tools start with clear communication. Label sections of the performance in your notes or even within the editing software, based on the specific tactics being used and the pivotal turning points for the character. Ask your editor pointed questions. Where does Eleanor's fight for control reach its absolute peak in this scene? Where does she seem to yield, even for a moment? Where does she re-strategize? Identify clear emotional beats. Moments of small victory, moments of profound loss, instances of cunning manipulation, or sudden illuminating discoveries that shift her understanding. Use your detailed performance notes from rehearsals. Map these psychological shifts across different takes you have. Don't be afraid to go frame by frame if necessary. Profound emotional nuance often lives in those micro behaviors, a subtle glance, a tightening jaw, a held breath.
So really getting granular with the performance analysis in the edit.
Yes. Encourage your editor to track these tactical pivots with the same intensity a composer uses to score a symphony, building momentum, creating tension, providing crucial moments of release or catharsis through the rhythm of the cuts. You could even color code timelines by tactic or by obstacle. Break down scenes not just into plot points she enters, she argues, she leaves, but into their distinct emotional beats. If Eleanor attempts seduction, then shifts to guilt, then maybe withdraws emotionally. Each of those shifts must profoundly affect the pacing, the length of the cuts chosen, maybe even the accompanying sound design that bleeds into the edit. Invite your editor directly into the actor's internal war. Ask them penetrating questions. What exactly is being fought for in this specific moment right here, and how does the way we cut this either help or hinder that battle? Use everything you have, rehearsal footage, your director's notes, annotated scripts to forge a direct, undeniable link between the actor's specific performance choices and the ultimate post-production decisions. The editor's ultimate job, then, is to make the character's internal battle not just visible, but absolutely visceral for the audience. Their finished work should pulse, it should vibrate, it should ache with the exact same desperation or hunger or fear that fueled the actor's performance on set.
Okay, so we have these incredibly powerful individual contributions mapped out. The camera as this emotional translator, the set as a psychological battlefield, the edit as this strategic sculpting of the inner journey. But the big question is, how do we make sure they all sing in perfect unison? How do we actually orchestrate true cross-department emotional continuity? How do we prevent, say, the lighting from undermining what the actor is doing, or the edit from contradicting the production design's message, making sure every single creative decision supports that actor's objective?
This really is the core principle. This is where it all comes together or potentially falls apart. Every single department must serve the exact same psychological spine, the actor's relentless fight to win their objective. And you, as the director, you are the unwavering keeper of that spine. That's your central role in this collaborative process. Your collaborators, they don't need to memorize the 12 steps of the Chubbuck technique by heart. That's not the point. They need to feel them. They need to intuitively grasp the emotional DNA of the character's struggle.
So it's about conveying the feeling, the essence, not the textbook definition.
Exactly. They need to intuitively align their creative choices. The color palette, the camera angle, the texture of a prop, the timing of a cut with that core emotional DNA. This isn't about just superficial cohesion where things simply look good together aesthetically. It's about achieving profound inner coherence where every single element resonates with the character's underlying truth. When the lighting, the framing, the design, the sound, the editing are all finely tuned to the actor's core need, the entire production just breathes in rhythm with that need. It becomes this powerful, unified symphony. Every note, every visual, every sound is deliberate and deeply meaningful. But when they're not aligned, when there's a disconnect, even a subtle one, the performance fractures, the emotional truth gets irrevocably diluted, weakened.
Like static on the line.
Precisely. If one part of the machine, one department's choices, works against that central mission, the entire engine misfires. For instance, if Eleanor is fighting tooth and nail to appear strong and completely in control, using that as her tactic, but the lighting design makes her appear weak and vulnerable, casting her in soft, diminishing light against her intention, then the scene's emotional truth is fundamentally compromised. The audience gets mixed signals.
The messages contradict each other.
Yes. But when everything is perfectly aligned, when every visual, auditory, and spatial element conspires together in service of that objective, then every single frame becomes a potent weapon of emotional truth. It lands directly in the audience's nervous system.
That makes perfect sense. A single discordant note really can ruin the whole symphony, can't it? So the director's role isn't just managing tasks, it's unifying the entire team through this shared emotional intent. But how do you, as the director, effectively translate that actor's journey, which is often so internal, so intricate, sometimes even nonverbal, into the specific practical language of light, color, space, and time? Especially for collaborators who aren't actors themselves, who might not naturally think in those psychological terms.
Your responsibility is that translation. Taking the actor's intricate inner journey and putting it into the precise language of light, color, space, and time. And crucially, not just artistically, but strategically, you have to ask the questions that bridge that gap. What does raw ambition truly look like on a color wheel? Is it a stark, driving red, a cold, calculated blue, maybe a metallic, unyielding gray that reflects a ruthless, single-minded drive?
So connecting abstract emotion to concrete visual elements.
Yes. What does deep shame feel like within a spatial composition? Does it feel like being crammed into a claustrophobic corner, physically containing the character's humiliation? Or does it feel like being exposed in an overwhelming, empty expanse that emphasizes their isolation and self-loathing? What rhythm, what pacing in the edit perfectly matches the pounding heart of someone desperately trying to hold themselves together to maintain composure under pressure? Is it rapid cuts? Or maybe an unnervingly slow pace that draws out the tension? These are the critical questions your department heads need to be grappling with, guided by you. They are not mere technicians executing tasks. They are your vital co-conspirators in building a profound, believable, psychological reality.
Co-conspirators, I like that.
You have to make the emotional architecture of the scene tangible for them, not just theoretical. Ground every single creative conversation in the actor's objective, in the inner objects that fuel them, those personal symbols or relationships, and in the precise tactics they are using moment by moment to win. Use the vocabulary of strategy and fight. Talk about battles, weapons, obstacles, defenses, attacks. Because emotionally, that is what the character's doing. Every single team member must be armed with the same mission to serve the raw need driving the behavior, to reveal the quiet desperation underneath the surface tactic, to illuminate the complex inner world concealed behind the dialogue. When you achieve this level of alignment, you're shaping not just individual performances or cool shots, you are shaping the very psychology and motion of your entire narrative. A living, breathing emotional experience that the audience can't help but be drawn into. Imagine that scene with Eleanor again. The camera does that slow zoom into her eyes as she delivers a seemingly calm line, revealing her inner monologue, which is actually simmering rage. Simultaneously, the production design features that single inherited family heirloom, that inner object, strategically placed just over her shoulder in the background, a silent, constant reminder of the past wound, the source of the conflict. And then the editing subtly extends a beat of silence just before her relative responds, heightening the psychological stakes of her challenge, making us hold our breath.
Wow, yeah. Camera, design, edit, all working together, hitting the same emotional note.
Exactly. Each department contributes its unique strength to a single, unified emotional impact. That's the goal.
This sounds like, well, it sounds like a constant, very active role for the director. It demands intense focus, relentless communication, deep understanding. What is the director's ultimate challenge in actually bringing this emotional strategy to life with all these collaborators? How do you maintain that constant alignment and, prevent those misfires we talked about?
Your ultimate challenge, yes. And your direct instruction really is to transcend just thinking about blocking or scheduling or logistics. You have to truly map the inner fight of your characters across every single department. A scene isn't just a sequence of actions happening in a location. It is a psychological topography. It's a battleground where the character is relentlessly pursuing their objective. Your task, your core responsibility, is to bring this internal landscape to vivid life. Make it tangible, make it visceral for every single collaborator involved. You are not simply delegating tasks. You handle costumes, you handle camera. You are orchestrating an emotional war. And every creative choice made by anyone on the team must either become a weapon in the character's arsenal, helping them fight, or it must become a formidable obstacle. There is absolutely no neutral ground in this technique. Everything is an active participant in the character's journey, either helping or hindering. So in your production meetings, I expect you to visually map out this inner fight. Literally, draw it on a whiteboard if you have to. Chart the character's objective. Pinpoint the subtle shifts in their tactics throughout the scene. Mark the moments where they feel profound collapse or vulnerability. Identify the pivotal points where power is gained or lost. This mapping transforms the scene from just words on a page into a living psychological topography, a blueprint for the emotional battle. And then your job is to challenge every single department head to help carve that map into existence on screen.
Making it concrete for everyone.
Exactly. And this means asking questions that cut right to the emotional core of the scene. Questions that push past mere aesthetics, past does it look good, into the realm of profound psychological impact. Ask your DOP, what does the lighting do when the character loses hope? Does it physically dim around them? Does it become colder, harsher, trapping them in shadow? Or does a single distant light source remain, hinting at a fragile inner fight for survival that's still going on? How does this soundscape breathe when they regain control? Does it expand into a clear, focused range of sounds? Does it ground dramatically to a stark, singular, powerful tone? Or does it introduce a grounding rhythm that asserts their newfound dominance? Ask your production designer, what does the space say about the truth they're desperately trying to hide? Does it feel like a mask they inhabit, a prison they've built for themselves, or maybe a chaotic shrine to some unresolved emotional trauma? Every single element of the production must actively participate in this struggle.
That's a really powerful way to engage the team, isn't it? Framing their work not just as technical execution, but as a vital contribution to the character's emotional journey. It gives their work such profound meaning within the story.
Exactly right. Every creative choice, whether it's the fabric of a costume, the length of a cut, the color temperature of a light, or the placement of a prop, it must either sharpen the character's fight or actively sabotage it. It must serve the objective or become an obstacle. You have to invite your entire team into these emotional trenches with you. Challenge them not just to design or build or light or assemble, but to fight alongside the character, using their specific craft as their weapon or their shield. Consider these kinds of crucial questions for your department heads constantly. Should this costume shrink the character, make them feel smaller, more vulnerable? Or should it empower them either physically or psychologically, helping them wield more influence or project a certain image? Should the cut come early here to create a sense of panic, mirroring the character's internal anxiety? Or should it linger, maybe uncomfortably, to show restraint or to allow the audience to truly feel the ache of a prolonged, difficult emotional moment? Should the lighting trap the character in their past? Should we use shadows reminiscent of previous scenes or traumas? Or should it illuminate a new possibility, a flicker of hope, maybe literally guiding them towards an exit or a new path? Should the production design clash deliberately with the character's stated need, creating visual tension and highlighting their internal conflict or obstacles? Or should it subtly echo their need, providing a subconscious sense of support or environmental alignment with their objective?
These aren't questions of just taste, are they? They're strategic questions about psychological impact.
Precisely. They are questions of strategic psychological impact. This whole challenge demands that you ask bolder questions, questions that transcend mere aesthetics and delve right into the soul of the story. You must constantly interrogate every single decision, yours and your team's, with a ruthless focus on its emotional contribution. What does this choice inherently say about the character's objective? How does it raise the psychological stakes? How does it deepen the conflict? What subconscious effect will this have on the viewer? Will it make them lean in, feel a pang of empathy or revulsion? You must demand that your collaborators make emotional choices, not just aesthetic ones that look good on their reel. Push them relentlessly. Push them to think psychologically, tactically, even spiritually about their craft and its impact on the story's truth. The goal is never, ever simply to make something pretty. It is always to make something that bleeds with truth, that resonates deeply, and vibrates with unwavering purpose.
Okay, the call to arms is definitely clear. It's about making every single creative decision either a weapon or an obstacle in the character's ongoing emotional war. That's a powerful framework. But how do we foster that deep alignment, that really human connection with material across the entire team? How do we get them to truly feel the character's struggle alongside the actor? And also ensure that their own individual artistic voices, their unique perspectives, are still honored within this structure.
You foster that alignment by making it personal for them, too. Challenge each department head specifically, individually. Ask them, what is your unique contribution to this character's war for need? What weapon are you bringing to this fight? Ask them things like, how does your work, your lighting, your costume, your set dressing, your soundscape expose the truth the actor is desperately trying to hide? Or conversely, how does it highlight the truth they're desperately trying to reveal? What secrets is your department telling the audience that the character refuses to admit, even to themselves, let alone through dialogue?
Making them complicit in revealing the character's inner life.
Exactly. Push them beyond just functional choices. We need a lamp here. And into the realm of profound emotional storytelling. And importantly, encourage them to channel their own personal stories, their own experiences, their own substitutions into their work. Because the more human the input, the more personally connected they are to the emotional core of the scene, the more potent and resonant the output will be. When they connect personally, their craft becomes infused with a much deeper resonance. And that's where their unique artistic voice finds its most powerful expression, not in random choices, but in choices made in service of the shared emotional truth. And critically, you must invite debate. Make ample space for bold, even unconventional ideas. This isn't about you dictating every single detail.
So it's not a top-down mandate entirely.
No, it's a collaboration fueled by a shared understanding of the core need. If your editor proposes holding a shot much longer than usual because they feel it's vital for the audience to truly feel the depth of Eleanor's defeat in that moment, support it, explore it, even if it goes against conventional pacing wisdom. If your director of photography suggests using deep shadow to isolate a character rather than conventional lighting to illuminate them, maybe to visually represent their emotional withdrawal or deception, deeply consider what that choice says about the scene's psychology, about Eleanor's relative retreating into denial, perhaps visually hiding from the truth. These audacious ideas, when they're rooted in emotional truth and serve the objective or highlight the obstacle, can unlock incredible layers of meaning and power. Your aim isn't mere consensus where everyone just kind of agrees to get along or find the safest middle ground. Your aim is absolute alignment on the emotional stakes. Challenge every single collaborator. Ask them to identify one specific moment in the script where their department could profoundly elevate the character's pursuit of their objective. And one moment where their choices could inadvertently obstruct it, become an unintentional obstacle. Then strategize together. Discuss those moments. Forge a united front based on that shared understanding of the character's fight. This isn't just craft anymore, it's combat, emotional combat. And you are leading an army of artists toward a shared emotional victory, ensuring everyone is fighting for the exact same truth.
This has been, well, incredibly insightful, truly. It completely outlines the director's expansive role, far beyond just working with the actors on performance. It shows how you can and must harness every single creative element to amplify the character's deepest journey. It honestly reframes how I'll think about every aspect of a production moving forward.
Indeed. And that's the crucial takeaway. Directing is not merely managing departments, checking boxes, making sure schedules are met. It is a profound psychological orchestration. It demands that every single collaborator fights in the same emotional war that the actor is fighting for their objective. You are their general in that war. You are their translator, bridging the gap between inner feeling and external expression in light, sound, and space. And above all, you must be absolutely relentless in your pursuit of emotional truth across every single frame, every sound cue, every thread of costume, and every single line of cut. The very soul of the story depends entirely on that alignment. When this alignment is truly achieved, when every element conspires consciously, intentionally to serve that singular psychological spine, then every frame genuinely bleeds with truth. And the audience doesn't just watch your film, they don't just observe. They feel the character's journey deep within their own nervous system. It becomes visceral. It becomes unforgettable. It's then, and only then, that your vision truly comes to life.